Welcome back to the Metro on 1019 WDET FM, Detroit Public Radio. I'm Tia Graham. Canada Day was earlier this week, and as such, we've been talking about our Windsor neighbors. That city has a lot in common with Detroit, and one of those things is jazz. Jazz means something special to so many people, especially younger musicians. But a big question remains. Are the younger generations of music lovers learning how special the genre truly is? The Electric Avenue International Jazz Festival is a new festival and is happening this weekend, July 4th and July 5th in Windsor. The event will infuse the city's food and art scenes to create a cross-border celebration of blues, soul, and, of course, jazz. That is Sam Dickinson, a local musician and someone who plays in the Russ Quintet, and they're playing this weekend at the festival. To talk a little bit more about the two-day event is Russ Macklem, a Detroit Windsor-based trumpet player, composer, educator, and recording artist. Russ is also the artistic director of the Electric Avenue International Jazz Festival. Russ will be playing alongside Sam and several other talented artists this weekend. Russ, welcome to the Metro.
Tia, thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. So give us, your best pitch. Why should Detroit jazz lovers head over to the Electronic Avenue International Jazz Festival this July 4th and July 5th?
Well, other than the fact that the music is going to be awesome, it's going to be free. So free is the right price. Thanks to our sponsors, which include St. Clair Alumni Association and my pal and philanthropist Jeremy Price, and a couple of local business associations. It's free and open to the public, so anybody can come on down and enjoy themselves. And also, where most of the festival is being held, actually all day on Saturday, is a space called Windsor Eats, where it has a large outdoor courtyard with food trucks all around, so you're no obligation, of course, to buy anything. But there's food trucks and refreshments available, and there's umbrellas and a few shade trees, so you'll be able to also stay cool while you're listening to the music.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be a hot one this weekend, especially for the holiday weekend. But recently we just had a conversation about the rich history that jazz has in Windsor, and what has it meant to you in particular, especially as a jazz musician? Who's influenced you as you were coming up?
Well, Detroit musicians in particular that influenced me would have included Marcus Belgrave, and I'm so fortunate to play with his son, Kassan, who's played in a couple iterations of my band, and also very happy to have his band on the festival also. And I mean, he is striking out on his own as such a significant artist in Detroit, and not just jazz, but all kinds of genres. So Marcus was a big influence on me, as well as other great Detroit trumpet players such as Donald Byrd. And yes. But not having grown up in the area, of course there were others that I was really into, like Miles Davis or Kenny Wheeler or Wallace Roney or Woody Shaw or Freddie Hubbard. I mean, influenced by many musicians. But then, of course, my dad, having grown up in the area, I was also influenced by many great Motown artists, as he had a great record collection. He had most of Stevie Wonder's records and Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell and, all of the above there. So.
Yeah, and Russ, if possible, because we had our conversation earlier about another jazz festival happening this weekend with Hugh Leal. I'm just curious if you know Hugh Leal at all.
Yes, I'm just also playing at that little festival on Sunday. He's been doing great things for about 40 years. He used to have a little record label. In fact, Marcus Belgrave did record for him more than 20 years ago, I think. That's another event that's happening also on the same weekend, and I think it is also free, and that happens in the Sandwich Town part of Windsor. So it's another event that people can come and check out also this weekend. So lots happening in Windsor this weekend, unusually for jazz.
Yeah, it's a big jazz weekend in Windsor. But let's just throw to a clip quickly because you were talking about Kassan Belgrave. Of course, we're very familiar with him here in the city, especially for jazz lovers in the city, listening to him flourish in his career. Just, knowing Kassan Belgrave, watching him when he was a college student and then watching him now as he's starting to branch out on his own, doing shows at Cliff Bell's, being a mentee of Rodney Whitaker, of the MSU bebop band as well. So just thinking about Kassan Belgrave and all the things that he's been able to accomplish in his young age, could you just go a little bit more into the young musicians just like Kassan who are coming up right now?
Oh, there are many in the Detroit area specifically. Kind of seeing a new generation emerge, and that includes people like William Hill III, Jerron Perry, great trumpet player, has also been studying with me a little bit, but I believe has a full scholarship to MSU and has been doing that, and he's fantastic. Langston Kitchen and also his brother is a great trombone player. I mean, there's just a ton of wonderful musicians that are coming out of Detroit that are just, in their teens or early 20s, and it's totally amazing to see.
It has been amazing to watch the young artists grow and really start to branch out throughout the city of Detroit, turning spaces that aren't historically or known to be jazz spaces into jazz venues, which is great to see. Mm-hmm. But what about young fans? Do young up-and-comers bring in younger jazz fans or future jazz heads, you think?
Yeah, it seems that the tide is turning a little bit in that way. I think audiences are maybe a little slower to change in terms of, age demographic. But, I think that's a big goal of our festival here in Windsor this weekend is to, attract younger generations to our music and with the audience that sort of Windsor Eats has, and also, the area of the city on Erie Street, the people that generally go there, they tend to be a lot of a younger demographic, and so hopefully exposing them to this music will make them lifelong fans.
And just speaking of that, because you're saying, in general, the younger audience and younger folks in Canada tend to go to this food hall in general. So if you could just talk about how finding and using this particular space to connect with the larger cultural scene in Canada would help bring in younger fans to the festival.
Yeah, I mean, Windsor Eats, run by my friend Adriano Satoli, it's already a pretty popular spot in Windsor. They have all kinds of music and sort of cultural events and things that go on there, while also having a pretty interesting array of different food trucks there with different cuisines. And sometimes those will change, so it's already sort of in the last couple of years turned into a bit of a cultural hub here in the city, and people have sort of become fans of going there because they kind of never know what they're going to get. So, hoping that people that already enjoy going there will come out for this.
Yes. We're talking about this weekend's Electric Avenue International Jazz Festival in Windsor. Our guest is Russ Macklem, a Detroit, Windsor-based trumpet player, composer, educator, and recording artist. And Russ is also the artistic director of the festival. Now, we're just coming to your music now, Russ. The South Detroit Connection was your debut album and the first live album recorded in Windsor in 22 years. Here's a clip of one of your songs, 1176. those listening right now, if you could just describe that song a little bit for us. It's 1176.
So that song came about in sort of memoriam of this kind of avant-garde club in Miami, where I lived. I did my doctorate at the University of Miami in music, where I was very fortunate to study with trumpeter Brian Lynch, who was one of the last jazz messenger trumpet player, and fortunate to have full scholarship there and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that was a really cool venue that a number of us played at, and it was unfortunately short-lived. So a lot of interesting things happened there. So that song, and 1176 was the address of that place.
Nice.
So.
And what does this album mean to you, especially the title, The South Detroit Connection? Whenever I think of South Detroit, of course, I think of Journey. So talk about the South Detroit Connection in that title.
Well, for me, there's a bunch of different meanings packed into it. I mean, first of all, back in the 19th century, South Detroit, I believe, was second and third in line for the name of Windsor as a city.
Interesting.
So it was almost called South Detroit, and even before the mention of South Detroit in the Journey song, it was a nickname for Windsor for a long time. As I think maybe more in years past, people saw Windsor as a suburb of Detroit, which in some ways it still is, but I think with the border not being as loose as it was many years ago, I think that sort of view changed, especially in a time when people are maybe feeling a little bit more nationalistic. But anyway, aside from that, it's also, I feel very much, I felt very much welcomed into the fold as a Detroit musician very, very soon after I arrived here about 6 years ago, and was always very thankful and fortunate for that. And the idea of the South Detroit connection was that the record brings together some voices from not just Detroit, but also Toronto. That's where Sam Dickinson, my guitar playing friend, is from. And then also New York City. Then that's where Adam Aruda, the drummer on the record, is from. And so I guess I was the South Detroit connection, bringing everybody together. And then also I have a penchant for old movies, and I love the movie The French Connection. So
one of my mom's favorite as well. But Russ, you're a fantastic player. You're an educator. You're an expert in brass pedagogy. First and foremost, describe brass pedagogy. Brass pedagogy. Pedagogy. Thank you for the pronunciation.
That's okay. Yeah. Brass instruments, particularly the trumpet, can be very difficult for people to learn. And I was no different. In fact, I didn't actually really want to be a trumpet player. It just kind of happened by mistake. Really, I just wanted to sit beside my friend who was going to be a trumpet player because his dad was a trumpet player. So I picked it just for that. And then I ended up, after, being terrible, I worked my way up, and then I fell in love with it by the end of my first year of playing. But I was not a natural player at all. And then sort of people, when they hear me now, they can't really believe that. But I had to work very hard for, the better part of a couple of decades to figure out how I was going to play this thing, because I heard it so clearly in my head and my heart and my soul, and it was the way I wanted to express myself. And so it took dozens of teachers and a lot of study to really figure out how I could take what was a very broken trumpet player and turn it into something that was free to express myself and virtuosic. And so now, as a result of my struggle and journey with it, I specialize in helping young brass players with their own issues and help them overcome the significant challenges that pose themselves with the instrument. And unfortunately, brass pedagogy seems to be it's sort of a tough world, because a lot of people that end up being players, it sort of comes natural to them. And so when they go to teach, they have trouble helping people that have some difficulty with the instrument.
Russ, I'm sorry to stop you there, but that was actually going to be one of my questions, because jazz is such an emotive type of genre of music. You're playing with feeling, you're playing with your emotions. You're, like you saying, you're expressing yourself through that instrument. So when you explain it that way, how have you used your talents to teach and train the next generation of jazz greats?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I mean, you don't want to see the trumpet as separate from music, but there's a certain amount of technical mastery that you have to gain in order to be able to play what comes to your head. So, I mean, my thing as a brass pedagogue and then also a music pedagogue is to try and get the instrument to the point where it's out of the way of making the music, so that it is a clean slate. And it's a palette where you can throw whatever colors on it that you want, and you're not feeling inhibited by the physical limitations of the instrument. And that's how I hear it and how I play. So,
no, that was beautifully said. I think a lot of us right now are looking at listening to what you're just saying and watching that picture paint right in front of our faces. But this weekend is the Electric Avenue International Jazz Festival. It's happening actually tomorrow as well as July 5th, all day long. Can you just give us one last plug about it and what people should know and are excited about, or should get excited about in terms of listening to some of the music?
Well, it's just going to be a fantastic day. We start the day with one of the top high school groups in the Windsor area, anyway, the Assumption High School Jazz Band, led by Brian Zanier, and then a local guitarist, Andrew Levisser, with his group organization will be playing. And then we're going to have a Detroit-Windsor sax battle with the great Stephen Grady Jr. versus Len Temolini, and, of course, friendly competition. And then Kassan Belgrave, hopefully join them for a tune or two. And then after that, Kassan Belgrave's quintet will be appearing, followed by the great Sam Dickinson and his trio will be appearing, and then to end the evening will be my group, the Russ Macklin Detroit Quintet, which if you want to see us, if you can't make it this weekend, we make our home at Motor City Wine. We play there every first Friday of the month, and also we have a new record coming up September 25th, which we'll release at the Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe, and it'll be available on vinyl from TQM Records. So.
Love that. Thank you so much, Russ, for letting us take a little bit of time out of your busy schedule this week. Russ Macklin is a Juno Award-nominated winning musician. He's performing along with several artists during this weekend's Electric Avenue International Jazz Festival happening July 4th and July 5th. Once again, Russ, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro, and don't forget to send us a copy of that album when it releases.
Will do. Thank you so much, Tia, for having me.
Of course. Government funding comes and goes, but the voices of Detroit stay strong with your help. WDET is facing serious revenue challenges due to potential cuts being proposed in Washington. To keep this station thriving, we're turning to the real source of the power, and that's you. Our goal, 1,000 additional members. So let's stand together and join us now at WDET.org/give, and don't forget to tell a friend. Coming up, Marion Hayden is this year's Kresge Eminent Artist. We'll hear about her journey through the genre of jazz. That's coming up right next on the Metro. You all stay right there.